I, William Samoei Ruto, swear
kunyanyasa kwenye amenyanyasa watu, watu wenye ameweza kuua, kupandisha kwenye ameweza kupandisha kodi, maisha yote yenye ameweza kufanya ngumu kwa watu. Lazima kila mtu atokee kwa street wakati wa kunyanyaswa, wakati wa kuteswa, wakati wa kuuawa, wakati wa kukatazwa kufanya mkutano, wakati wa kukatazwa kukula chenye tunataka, wakati wa kodi kuongezwa, wakati wa mateso na vita zisizo na sababu, wakati wa watu kuuawa bure umefika mwisho. Na sasa ni kila mtu atokee tauni. President lazima alimuviwe.
In August 2022, William Ruto won Kenya's presidency with a simple promise. I am one of you. I will fight for the hustlers. But today, around 1,000 days later, to be specific, 1,016 days later, he's become the most hated president in Kenya's history.
Na hii ifikie Kasongo that Kenyans we are tired na tuna retaliate na akizidi sana nitamu.
Protesters want him gone. His own people call him Zakayo, the biblical tax collector. How did the man who promised to save Kenya's poor people become their greatest enemy? This is that story.
simu utakuwa unapiga free of charge, simu haitakuwa inakatika kwa sababu sasa tutakuwa tumedeploy internet.
To understand how Ruto became so hated, we need to go back to one of the most brilliant political campaigns in African history. In 2022, Kenya faced a choice between two political dynasties. Raila Odinga, backed by the outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta, representing the old guard, and William Ruto, the deputy president who positioned himself as the outsider. Ruto's genius was simple. He turned Kenyan elections into a class war, not rich versus poor, but hustlers versus dynasties.
Mumepanga na wale viongozi wa makabila kubwa kubwa, mumepanga na wale viongozi wa mavyama ya kabila kubwa kubwa, na hiyo ni sawa. Na sisi pia tumepanga na hawa mama mboga na hawa wa mkokoteni.
These were his exact words. This election is about ordinary hustlers struggling to put food on the table versus the elite Kenyatta and Odinga dynasties that have dominated Kenyan politics for decades. His symbol wasn't a lion or an eagle. It was a wheelbarrow, the tool of a common worker.
Wheelbarrow inaharibu hata ndoa. Ukiendesha wheelbarrow sana, mikono zinakuwa ngumu. Ukienda kwa bibi, ukishika bibi, atakuuliza, jamani unanishika ama unanikanyaga?
His message was revolutionary. We want everyone to feel the wealth of this country, not just a few at the top.
Tumepanga yetu na hawa wa chini, tuheshimiane.
He made a lot of promises. Some of them, he said that unga, which is the maize flour, would retail at 70 shillings per 2 kgs. He promised to lower taxes for ordinary Kenyans.
These people don't understand the damage they are doing to the people and the economy of Kenya. Kwa hii taxes wanaongeza usiku na mchana.
He promised jobs for the youths, and he promised a bottom-up economy that would lift the poor first. And it worked. Against all odds, the deputy president defeated the establishment's candidate. Ruto won with 50.5% of the votes, a razor-thin margin that represented the hopes of millions of hustlers.
Ruto William Samoei has been duly elected as the president.
But here's the twist. The moment he won, everything changed.
If any officer is in danger of criminals, they must use their firearms to deal with the criminals.
They say power reveals character. In Ruto's case, it revealed something devastating. Everything he'd said was a lie.
I, William Samoei Ruto.
On September 13th, 2022, William Ruto was sworn in as Kenya's 5th president, the wheelbarrow president, the hustler-in-chief. But watch what happened next. The first betrayal to Kenyan people was the cabinet. Instead of appointing hustlers, Ruto filled his cabinet with the same political elites he'd campaigned against, former governors and political dynasties, the very people he'd promised to kick out. The second betrayal was the taxes. Remember, he promised to reduce the tax burden? Instead, he introduced the most punitive tax regime in Kenya's history. This included the housing tax, 1.5% of your salary, medical insurance tax, that was 2.5% of your salary. The income tax for middle class went up to that 5%. And not to forget the VAT on fuel, which went up to 16%. The third betrayal, and the one that must have affected most Kenyans, was the unga promise.
Tunataka unga at 100.
He had promised that a 2 kg maize flour would retail at 70 shillings. Instead, the prices went up. The prices hit 240 shillings at one point. The wheelbarrow president had made life harder for the very people who trusted him.
Now that's why Ruto atoe unga from 240. Equal 10 bob. Bado tutaenda maandamano.
By 2023, Kenyans were already protesting. But Ruto's response revealed something chilling. He didn't see this as broken promises. He saw it as defiance that needed to be crushed. The man who'd campaigned as a Democrat unleashed police brutality on protesters. By July 2023, people had died, hundreds had been injured, and more than 300 had been arrested. But this was just the beginning. On June of 2024, Ruto made his biggest mistake yet. He underestimated Generation Z. The finance bill of 2024 was the final straw, or as the Englishmen say, the straw that broke the camel's back. He introduced new taxes on bread, cooking oil, mobile money, diapers, even sanitary pads. For young Kenyans who were already struggling with unemployment and the cost of living, this was war. And this war was different. This generation was different. They organized on X, formerly Twitter, TikTok, and WhatsApp. No political leaders, no ethnic divisions, just pure anger at being betrayed. On June 18th, 2024, the protest began peacefully. Young people, well-dressed, well-educated, carrying flags and flowers. They called themselves Gen Z. And what do you think was Ruto's response? He called them misled and sponsored by foreign forces. He couldn't understand that this was organic rage from the people who believed in his promises.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm here to address you. You must go.
June 25th, 2024, the day that changed everything. Protesters stormed Parliament. The building was set on fire, and Ruto's police opened fire with live ammunition. The results, 69 young Kenyans died. 627 were arrested, and 32 disappeared. 29 are still missing to date. These weren't criminals or terrorists. These were students, young professionals, the future of Kenya, shot dead for demanding accountability from their president. And what was Ruto's response? He praised the police. He called them the best force in Africa. No apology, no accountability, no remorse. That's when Kenya realized the hustler president was gone. In his place was something much darker.
Mr. President, this boy, 12-year-old, took 8 bullets into the body of a 12-year-old boy. What would you tell the mother of that boy?
That boy is alive, right?
No, it's not.
Kennedy Onyango died.
It's that.
By the end of 2024, Ruto wasn't just a failed president. He was following the classic dictator's playbook. Step number 1, he would capture institutions. That included interfering with judges, turning parliament into a rubber stamp through bribes and intimidation, weakening the Auditor General and anti-corruption agencies, and attacking devolution by slashing their county budgets and sometimes not giving the budget at all. Step number 2 would be to silence critics. Digital crackdowns on social media, arrests of influencers and activists, internet slowdowns during protests, threats against journalists. Step number 3 would be change the rules. Already, there are whispers about constitutional amendments. The term limits want to be extended, not for the people, but for the people in power, so that they can stay till 2032 and beyond. And step number 4, international isolation. Despite his diplomatic visits, Ruto's human rights record has made Kenya a pariah. Sudan accuses Kenya of supporting rebels. Tanzania and Uganda question Kenya's regional role. The hustler president has become exactly what he'd campaigned against, an out-of-touch elite, drunk on power, willing to kill his own people to stay in control. But wait, didn't Ruto's economic policies actually work? The government claims inflation has dropped by 2.8%. Foreign reserves has increased and the economy is stabilized. But here's the truth. While macroeconomic indicators improved, ordinary Kenyans got poorer. How is this possible? The answer is very simple. Taxes. While inflation dropped, Ruto's new taxes meant families were paying up to 40% of their income to the government. The economic gains were eaten up by the tax burden. Think about it. If inflation drops by 3%, but your taxes increase by 10%, are you better off? Of course not. This is why, despite good economic numbers, Kenyans felt poorer. The statistics lied, but their bank accounts told the truth.
If we are a serious state, we must be able to enhance our taxes.
So, what happened to William Ruto? How did the wheelbarrow president become Zakayo, the tax collector? Political psychologists call it power corruption syndrome. But Ruto's case is more complex. 3 factors explain this transformation. Factor number 1, the imposter syndrome. First, he was never really a hustler. Born into a middle-class family, educated at university, wealthy from his time as an MP, Ruto's poor boy story was always political theater. When he gained power, the mask slipped off. Factor number 2, the bubble effect. Surrounded by sycophants, protected by security, isolated from real Kenyans, Ruto has lost touch with reality. He started believing his own propaganda. Factor number 3, the zero-sum mindset, or some may call it the dictator's dilemma. Once he started using violence against protesters, he couldn't stop. Each act of brutality made him more enemies, requiring more brutality to stay in power. A vicious cycle. This is the classic pattern of failed African leaders. Promise everything, deliver nothing, blame others, use violence, become the very thing you campaigned against. By 2025, Ruto had crossed the point of no return. The death of blogger Albert Ojwang in police custody in June of 2025 reignited the protests. But something had changed. The polls were devastating. More than 70% of Kenyans wanted the president gone. His approval ratings had collapsed to levels never seen in Kenya's democratic history. Compare this with other African presidents. For example, Ghana's Akufo-Addo faced similar economic challenges but maintained legitimacy. There's also Rwanda's Kagame. Despite being a dictator, he delivers results. Ruto's unique failure is a combination of betraying his core constituency, which is the poor, using excessive violence against peaceful protesters, lying about economic improvements while making life harder, and finally, maintaining a lavish lifestyle while preaching sacrifice. The tipping point came when even his own supporters turned against him. The hustlers who voted for him and now want him gone. He has become politically radioactive. Today's protests aren't just about policy, they are about dignity. Kenyans feel humiliated by a president who lied to them, who stole from them, and continues to kill their children when they complain. So, where does this end? Can Ruto survive until 2027? Let us look at what our options are. Scenario number 1, constitutional removal. Kenya's constitution allows impeachment, but Ruto controls parliament, so that is unlikely. Scenario number 2, mass movement. Sustained protests could force resignation, like in Sudan or Sri Lanka. That is possible, but requires sustained organization. Scenario number 3, electoral defeat in 2027.
Number 1 term. Wewe William Ruto. Wewe Kasongo.
If he survives until then, current polling suggests a massive defeat, but will he accept the results? Here is the danger. A cornered dictator is the most dangerous. As pressure mounts, Ruto might resort to even more extreme measures, declaring emergency rule, suspending the constitution, or escalating violence. History has shown us what happens to leaders who betray their own people. An example of Marcos in the Philippines, Ben Ali in Tunisia, Mubarak in Egypt. They all thought they were untouchable. They were wrong. William Ruto's story isn't just about Kenya, it's about the future of African democracy. Across Africa, populist leaders are using the man of the people playbook to gain power. Ruto's failure shows us what happens when those promises turn out to be lies. The real lesson isn't about Ruto, it's about us. How do we hold our leaders accountable? How do we ensure campaign promises become policy reality? How do we protect the right to protest when government fail? Kenyan Gen Z has shown the way, organized, fearless, and uncompromising in their demand for accountability. They've proven that even the most powerful president can be brought low by the truth. Ruto's story is still being written, but one thing is clear. The age of lying to African people is over. The generation that grew up with smartphones and social media won't be fooled by wheelbarrows and empty promises. The question isn't whether Ruto will fail. It's whether Kenya's democracy will survive his fall, and that depends on all of us. This is the story of how Kenya's hustler president became the most hated leader in the country's history. A man who promised everything and delivered nothing, who spoke of love but dealt in violence, who campaigned as a Democrat but governed as a dictator. 1,000 days, 69 people dead, millions betrayed, one presidency in ruins. What do you think? Is there any way back for William Ruto? Can Kenya's democracy survive this crisis? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to stay updated on Kenyan politics and hold our leaders accountable, please subscribe and hit that notifications bell, because democracy isn't a spectator sport. Thank you for watching and see you on the next one.